to order, yeah.
I'd like to welcome everybody to our Monday, September 11th, 2023 Cascade City Council meeting. We'll have a call to order with a Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Kelchin.
Here.
Roush.
Here.
Hush.
Here.
Delaney.
Here.
Oliphant. Here.
I need a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion by Kelchin,
Second.
second by Oliphant. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
At this time, we'll have public comment. You have a limit of 3 minutes per person on agenda items and local government issues.
Number 8 on the agenda is the trees, and that's a real issue around town. I mean, a tree I planted is, in the last month, just bit the dust, and I can see it out. You probably can't see it from the street, but I think that people are going to need help. And there's another house in my neighborhood that has 2 trees. And so if it's $1,000 for one, which I say that's a real conservative estimate, I think that what we need to do, what the council needs to do, is put together a program to help people out, especially if they're having problems doing this, because it could end up landing on their house, all right? And they see all sorts of money being paid out for TIF, for this, for Farmers Bank building, but they never get any of it. And I think it'll save people time and money. You'll have a standard job. You can get my kinsman McDermott up there in Worthington, get him to come here for a month or 3 weeks and just do everything. And it might be to his benefit. I mean, I think it would be a really good program, badly needed by the people in this town.
Thank you. Number 6, consent agenda. Minutes, City Council 8/28/23, Library Board 9/5/23, liquor licenses for the Corner Tap Room outdoor premises 9/16/23 and 10/6/23. I need a motion on the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion on the consent agenda.
Motion by Kelchin, second by Delaney. Roll call.
Oliphant. Aye. Kelchin.
Aye.
Roush.
Aye.
Hush.
Aye.
Delaney.
Aye.
Number 7, consideration of ordinance number 10-23, limitation on garage or rummage sales. And this is the second of 3 readings. Need a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Delaney,
Second.
second by Roush. Roll call.
Kelchin.
Aye.
Roush.
Aye.
Hush.
Aye.
Delaney.
Aye.
Oliphant.
Aye.
Number 8, consideration of ordinance number 14-23, trees, and this is the third and final reading. Any questions?
I don't have any questions, just comments. I think to Shirley's point, and we've talked about this at the meetings, about maybe we do get a list of people. If we're going to send out a list, our letters to people, maybe we get a list and we contact someone and see if we could get a group rate quote. Because I'm very, very concerned. I don't like this. I think that it's not enough time. I'm very concerned about what it's going to cost people.
So just for everybody's knowledge too, I called Steve on it. Just a little research I did. Mom and Dad have 2 that have to come down. So I called a tree company in. I don't know, really need to give their name. But we're keeping the lumber from it for firewood so they don't have to dispose of that. And I'm going to get rid of the brush. But they are 2 of the biggest ash that are in town. I'm quite sure. 3 of us couldn't wrap our arms around them. And it's $3,000 for those 2 to come down.
2 together or 3 a group?
$3,000 for them to be on the ground. And that's including grinding the stumps a foot below the ground. And they'll be there. Yeah, about $1,500 a tree. And they are 2 of the biggest in town. And they are going to be here within the next month.
So, but I think that the removal of all of that is quite a bit of an additional charge, because I know we paid over that to have, it was a fairly large tree in our old house, and then 2 smaller ones, and they were small, and it was at least $3,000.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's something, if somebody's wanting to be budget conscious about it, talk to people who burn firewood. I mean, I know the brush needs to go. I But the logs, you might be able to talk to somebody who burns firewood, and they would be willing to come pick up the logs. There's a lot of people in the outskirts of town that burn firewood that might do that.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're trying to
I do think
save
if we
a
do
bit.
big, it's not gonna behoove us to be like, here's a letter this week and here's a letter next week. We're better to like, just send them all out at once and then ask these contractors to, and then be able to, I would get this information before we send the letter and then say like this contractor or this one. If people, kind of group together and we wait till they can come and just one house after the other. I
If a
really do
tree
think you'll
service
get a
knew
better
they could
rate.
do 20 or 30 and stay in town.
Or even if we could put it in the letter to contact the city by X date, so that we could group these together, and then we could
Yep.
get this, hopefully a group rate.
Yep, good idea.
But, because then, I'm gonna read that letter and I'm gonna go, okay, I need to get on this list so I can hopefully get a discount. But, and I don't know if the city can do anything about, I'm way too new to know this, but like a payment plan or something to help with this, like,
So what the way to extend it would be that they would basically not do it and have us do it, and then we put it on their property taxes, and then it would basically be a payment plan.
But that would ultimately be more expensive, probably, right?
And
Not
the
really.
thing about tree
'Cause it
removal
would
right
only be
now
one
is
property at a time, quite
it's-
likely,
No,
right?
we could still do them all.
it's a necessary evil. It has to be done. I don't know if there's all those great deals out there because it has to be done. People
Yeah.
know there's a big need for it. It's not like people can go out there and beg, borrow, and plead to try to get a better deal. I mean, your best bet might be trying to leave the logs and having somebody else come take them. That, you gotta think creatively on how to save, because there's not.
Yeah, and maybe even put out there like a post on Facebook that, on our page, that says, we're trying to cut the costs, and if there are people out there, like, get on the city's list of wanting it. Like, we've had that in other cities I've worked in where they call it like the firewood list, and then if somebody took a tree down, it was kind of like when you have like the tow trucks and you have the order, like, you're at the top of the list, so the next tree that comes down, it's you, and then it's you, and then it's you, and you get one tree. You can go get
Yep.
it.
Because if they don't have to haul the logs away, there might be some savings there. But I don't know where else you'd cut corners to save. There's a lot of fixed cost and just mobilizing to go do it. And
that's why
because,
I'm wondering
and
if we do it as a group, would we get a better rate?
but when you're set, the problem is, it's not
think
like
a little
some,
bit,
it's
not
not like you
drastic.
can come, it's not like the product comes to you. You still gotta mobilize and move. It
Right.
takes a lot to pack everything up to move from your house to Steve's house. There's not, that's what's tough. They got a lot of equipment and fixed costs in it.
I guess what I'm afraid of, any kind of discount would probably be pretty minimal.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's a $3,000 project, start to finish,
Because they're gonna get the work here regardless,
Yeah, I mean,
whether you
they're better
bundle
off-
it
That's
or
what I'm
they're
saying.
better off to,
take each
do
one as
do
it
another
comes.
$3,000 tree than to take one down for $2,500. And
Yeah.
that's still a fairly large number.
One of the firms was really eager to get in here and have like he's newer, but he's done work for the city, and he wanted to be able to have like a day rate, basically, and said that we would get it, like if we had him doing city properties. So maybe he'd do something like that too. We'll talk to him once we get this.
And I think coordinating as a big group effort might be tougher than if you could call a tree company with your neighbors and say, hey, I got
Yeah, if you,
Three
that
properties right along.
3 properties, we're right alongside each other. Can you plan a day when you could come take care of all of us? Shoot us a ring.
In
on
the
doing
neighborhood.
that On a neighborhood compared to the city and Lisa trying to coordinate anything.
Yeah,
That
we'll
would be
see what
my
we can do.
thought. It'd be easier for like Shirley to be able to say, which I know it's not on your property anymore, but that Shirley has one, but then that your neighbor has 2 right next door. Hey, we got 2 within a block. It's,
you're right
you wanna
there.
shoot both of us a price on this. Here's his here's their number, here's my number. Let's just take care of it.
Well, what would also help is when we send out the letters to create a map,
Yep.
like have a dot for everyone that we're sending one to. So then you kind of see if they're clustered.
And how soon are we planning on sending these letters out?
Well, I would like to do it very soon.
Okay.
It's just a matter of, I need help kind of coming up with the list. I've been talking to Bill McCarthy about it, where we could kind of send him out to find round 1.
And it's gonna matter too where somebody's tree is. A front yard tree is a lot easier to get to than somebody's backyard tree.
By
where it's
far.
gonna fall, how big their yard is,
Yep.
how they can dump it.
Mhm.
If they gotta reach over somebody's house or the landscape it's on, so.
Yep.
Right. Skinny between two houses, you know, like.
Because when I
space.
called them, they waited until it was a rain day and they came and looked at those two and then called me back the next day, so.
If there's no other questions, I need a motion on ordinance number 14-23.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 14-20.
Motion by Roush,
Second.
second by Delaney, roll
Just have a
call.
quick comment, though. I mean, if we do this now, letters go out, we have about 3 months left of this year. So you'd be basically looking at the end of February. I mean, would we be wise to extend that out at least a couple more months for people?
Best time to do it is in the winter.
I know, but you still have March and April. I mean, we give everybody a little more time, give the tree people a little more time.
I really don't think it's gonna take them 5 months. And I think, you know, it's,
Well, I imagine every town is.
I mean, if somebody come in here and said, I'm not gonna feed my kids, because
Well,
you're making us
We're
take.
not talking about kids, though. I mean, I'm just
No, but
saying,
I'm-
that, I mean, I think the demand's gonna be pretty tough to get people, but.
But Andy just said, like, they said they could be here within a month.
Mhm.
I think that we'd be better to just get it going, so that the rule is the rule, and then.
And then if somebody
you
needs
can
to
always
ask for
make
an
exceptions, if
extension.
it's just a complete
Do you
debacle.
do an extension?
And nobody can get it done, or someone comes in here,
But we're not giving, there's no leeway in the ordinance for any more extensions after 150 days.
I think but if you say you can have 8 months, then they're never gonna get done. You know what I mean?
It's a bit debatable, but
I still think 8 months gives people more time to save for it, to be able to pay for it. I don't agree with this.
Any other questions? We've got a motion and a second, roll call.
Roush,
Aye.
Hush,
nay.
Delaney,
Aye.
Oliphant,
Nay.
Kelchin.
Aye.
Number 9, consideration of resolution number 70-23 DNR Community Forestry Grant Application.
So I received word on Friday, and I didn't notice the email until after the packets went out. So I had applied for a community forestry grant, thinking that we had the 2 new kind of public spaces, not that we can afford to, because we have to pay the 50%. So I thought, all right, at least where are the new places that we're gonna need trees? And so I picked 5 trees at the park up by Oak Hill that we'll be developing if the council orders the playground equipment in a couple weeks, and then the dog park. And so that was a total of 8 trees, which between the tree cost and the mulch is $1,830. So the DNR will pay for half of that. So the grant that we received was $915, with the city then having to pay $915. And we could also have it potentially be that our portion is paid for by people through their donations in our memorial program. I know that, you know, there's like the swim club had donated to the family who had their daughter pass away in your neighborhood, and talked about like a bench and a tree. So that could be the other match part of it, things like that. So before I signed it and committed us, I thought it'd be best that we have you approve it. And it's on the fast track. They all have to be planted this fall. We had to, on the application, pick a planting date. So the planting date is Tuesday, October 10th. It's supposed to be like a community event. The DNR person may come and observe. I was gonna work with Haley on trying to get some kids, maybe to have it be like a project through one of the classes or something, or get some younger parents who are home with their kids to come up there if we need to do it during the day, so.
I got volunteer time to use too, so. let me know.
So we would pre-do the holes.
Is there a reason why we're going with, I mean, these trees are almost $225 a piece. I mean, I go out to Gassers in the spring, and, I mean, they have 10, 12-foot, or 10-foot oak trees out there that are $60 or $70. I mean, is there a reason why we're,
So in the
Opt in for
DNR,
them.
you have to have an actual quote from like a tree farm. You have to have specific species. Like if you, I didn't put it in the packet, but like I had to say what species we're buying, and I actually have to get DNR approval to switch them. So the problem with saying like a retail place like that is that we're just at the whim of whatever they have at the time.
well, or some other source for, I mean, obviously they're getting, if it's an $80 tree, they're paying $50 for them.
Yeah,
Must be
I mean,
other
these are
sources.
bigger trees. Like I don't know
Yeah, but
how.
I mean, with a bigger tree, it has to take so long for it to develop a root system. Meantime, you're sitting there trying to water it enough to keep it going for 2 or 3 years.
But like,
Most people will debate whether there's any real advantage to getting a 12, 15-foot tree, because it sits there for quite a while, getting the root system established, so it can start growing. I mean, it looks pretty, but I can,
Just thinking public spaces versus people's yards, a lot of times they'll go with bigger trees because, I mean, everywhere I go, I see kids hanging on trees and like literally snapping them off, and parents are standing right next to them, and they're like, what are you doing? So I
guess
think
what-
they just are more susceptible to
I
damage.
guess what I've read is, you know, it's basically, people like the looks of a large tree, but if you start out with one that's, you know, 2 or 3 years old versus 4 or 5, the smaller one basically catches up to the other after a short period of time. If not for this here, such as is somewhat laid out, I think in the future, we should be a little more, at least consult and find out if that is, I mean, I've read about it, that's kind of the case. Because the tree sits there for 2 or 3 years, barely able to do anything, because the root system isn't spread out enough to actually start growing.
Yeah.
So-
We've kind of let Bill McCarthy as our tree expert take the lead on what we've purchased. so.
Again, in the future, I just like, I mean, I don't
But
know why we
a-
can't,
Grant wouldn't have necessarily covered a retail tree.
I
is
don't
what you're
believe
saying.
so, because I have to specifically give them a tree farm quote,
Yeah.
and then you
So,
have to go there. So if I change
mean-
the location or the types, yeah, maybe
What
when
I'm
we
saying
do in the
is basically
future,
we're getting
200s
tree
for 100.
farm, yeah. We're
I mean, you
getting-
could get a red oak, maples, whatever, I mean, from a lot of different places.
But the thing is, what I'm saying for the grant, it's fine if you're saying for others.
Okay, I'm just saying in the future, I mean,
Yeah.
this idea of spending $250 or whatever for a tree, that you know, you could probably be doing the same thing for less than $100, just because it, quote, looks nice. It's kind of wasted.
So right now, we're $114 a tree.
It's over $1,800 for 8 trees.
Well, but with this grant, paying for half of it,
Our cost.
our
Well, I'm
cost.
talking about the overall cost for everybody.
Oh, well, yeah. Yeah, but if the grant wouldn't cover a retail tree, we're getting a
I'm
bigger
not
tree
saying-
for.
I understand for the
A
future.
tree is a tree. I can't, whatever the source is, I'm just saying in the future especially. I mean, if this is the only way we can go this route, but I think it's a little ridiculous, especially from what I've read. I mean, you basically, the larger tree cannot grow because the root system is so small. However, it takes a long time for it to develop enough root system. Meantime, you have a larger tree there that's more susceptible to drought and whatever, while it's just sitting there trying to establish roots so they can start growing, so.
I know that Bill volunteers his time to water our trees, so we're lucky in that respect. The ones that he planted.
What ones are we going with?
Well, I didn't think you were going to ask that question.
He's
There's
really big
basically.
on,
I
Swamp
have them.
oak,
Just a minute.
where there was,
I think there's a white oak
locust?
and there's a coffee tree.
yep.
yeah, the coffee tree was one, they look like an oak.
And he also, because what do we plant down at the community park? An aspen, I think.
Does that look like a birch?
He said the only downfall was is it had those little pods it dropped. I think I remember him talking something about
Yeah.
that because they were very disease resilient.
yes. And that's all the ones that he picked, they're supposed to be all
Fairly disease resistant.
So
At
they
least
give you a
the-
very specific list in the application. Like, it's not just the 5 that I picked, that I didn't pick them, Bill picked them. But one big thing is that you're not gonna get awarded if you say we want all of this type, because the whole reason that
No.
they're giving us this money is to help replace the emerald ash borer disease. And so because so many towns had so many of those, they wanna know that you diversify.
Oh, that makes sense. I guess.
Not like all the trees.
So we are getting
Gonna get wiped out.
2, and these are 10-gallon pots, which I don't believe are the size that you get, like, you know, they are bigger. But anyway, there's 2 swamp white oaks, 1 espresso Kentucky coffee tree, 2 skyline honey locust, 1 green mountain sugar maple, and 2 red oaks. So there's 5 different kinds for 8. So we have 3 kinds that are 2 each, and then 2 that are singles.
While we're on this topic, I do have a question. I think Shirley's the one who mentioned it at the last meeting, maybe. Can we only use these for like city property? Or could like next year, if they have the same program, could we apply for,
Residential?
yeah. like
Not for
talk-
the grant,
Okay. I was wondering, like all these people that are losing trees,
yeah.
could
no.
we, and then they would get half price trees.
Yeah, no. You have to put what, like I had to specifically do like
Map.
a map of like where the parks are, and then I had to say like, here's the dog park, and this is the community, the Oak Hill thing, and we're gonna put these trees around the playground, and then I had to do a map for, the dog park and say, these are where the trees are gonna be, so. It has to be in public spaces.
Perfect.
Did we have a I mean, to Riley's point, did we have any kind of contact with utilities? In the past, they've had.
They have a
Yeah,
tree
there's a-
rebate, and it's online right now, and you can get a
Yep.
rebate.
But again,
It's-
years ago, not that long ago, I mean, you could, every spring, they would
Do a
bring
tree
trees in
program.
and whatever, and people would pick them up. and-
It's not what they do now. They let you turn in a receipt for 1 tree, and I think when I looked it up, it was either $50 or $100, but 1 tree per property, you can get that rebate if you're a customer. You don't just have to be an electric customer, so you can be a gas customer up in Oak Hill.
That's good to know, because I would love
I don't
another
feel
tree
like
in my
people-
yard.
Yeah, so you get part of
How
it.
far back do they go? Because I planted one about 3 years ago.
I feel like it has to be this year. And I don't know if that means this fiscal year, but if you go on the website, I can check, but if you go on the website and then you go to utilities, that tab, and then it's a thing for rebates, and then you click on those, and it's pretty easy to find. Just don't remember if it was $50 or $100. But
Hmm.
applications for rebates.
I guess I'd be curious to see how they source their trees, though.
Yeah, just to the.
I mean, I'm sure they maybe
Shade
get them through
trees.
the Iowa Forestry Service or something like that, and there may be other avenues that, and basically, people would, like, put their name in for a tree, and they come up with 50 trees on a Saturday morning and dispense them.
Yeah.
You might actually be able to get 2 because it says a max of 1 tree per year, and that's listed as the maple shade tree, you get $50, and other shade trees, you get $100. So I don't know if you can, I didn't ask Chantal that, if you can get 1 of each and actually buy 2, and get $150 back. So I mean, even there, like,
Mhm.
so anyway,
There's also the Arbor Day Foundation.
Mhm.
I know they have different programs as well.
the ones that I've been involved in, they literally give you like 6-inch trees.
They're small.
And they're just not, like, they're really meant to like go plant in your yard
Yeah.
as a person, because think about what's gonna happen at a park if you plant a little.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I guess maybe for the people that are losing their trees.
Right,
that might be an
definitely,
option for
not for our
Not
places,
for our
but
purpose,
yes.
yeah.
We can try to promote those. So anyway, resolution
Seven-
70-23 would be to allow me to sign the paperwork.
Need a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Oliphant,
I'll second.
second by Roush. Roll call.
Hush.
Aye.
Delaney.
Aye.
Oliphant.
Aye.
Kelchen.
Aye.
Roush.
Aye.
Number 10, discussion on library bids.
Well, Thursday was not the day that we were hoping for. I think everybody got my email that the architects at FEH had estimated the project to be $2.6 million. All 4 bids came in at $3.8 million. So we know that at least for where things were at for different subs, things like that was that day's price. So at the next meeting, instead of awarding a bid, we will most likely be coming forward to reject all bids and direct staff to rebid it. On Thursday at 8 a.m., we'll be having a meeting with whoever can make it. I know those of you that work, it's not that simple. So the most important person that I wanted to have here was Mike Beck, because obviously he has the most knowledgeable information about what different things cost, what to get it to all add up to that 3.8 million. So 2 of the architects will be here, 1 will be on the phone. We've already started to talk about, you know, the number 1 thing that we're gonna do is try to change materials. A big thing was the geothermal that they thought would not be expensive or more expensive, and was extremely expensive. So I've already directed them to not wait until Thursday to have their person that was in charge of that portion of it start redesigning it for regular furnaces. So they're like, well, if we decide on Thursday, I'm like, well, there's no if, it will be, so. Like, so that's in the works. The brick was a huge amount, having the different kinds of bricks that make it look pretty, but we can still have a nice brick exterior look. You know, some of the buildings that I think Mike referred to were, say, like the Edward Jones building. Like, it has a brick exterior, it looks nice, but it's not 5 different kinds of brick on different layers, things like that. So that will be something we look at. The roofing material, the shingles themselves will most likely be swapped out for something else. With the electric fireplace, there was an actual like chimney that we don't need, and so the exterior of that side may just be regular instead of, if you remember, we had kind of that stone look. On the inside, we can make it look pretty, but it's just an electric fireplace. We will discuss the small attic space over the community center. We'll talk about the height of the corner where we had that tower that we've already kind of shrunk down. There seems to be debate about the depth of the walls. At least the crews from our local contractors. Bless you.
Sorry.
The local contractors did not think it should be code that we have to have a 16-inch wide wall based on how y'all make it up with the insulation and everything, so they want to talk about that. So we were going to meet on Friday. We moved it up to Thursday because of certain people, like I said, Mike specifically being gone Friday and all of next week. So our best guess for the timeline, which is obviously important that we get this bid out in time to still be able to break ground in spring and be at a more reasonable cost, would be that the next 4 weeks would be redesign, the following 4 weeks would be bidding, and then be able to award in early December to get those prices back down.
But we don't necessarily have to compromise on square footage, correct?
That is the goal.
Great.
You do or don't want council there? Do you?
No.
Don't need anybody there? Okay.
I mean, if Riley and Megan are on the committee, I know Megan can't come. If you,
I'll be in the week that day.
okay, so yeah. I mean, obviously, no, we're gonna, like, you've all been at the meeting, the committee's gonna do everything we can to get it to where it's supposed to be, where it was estimated to be. Some other things that I've done, if you remember, we got that $60,000 Carver grant. I went on their website thinking maybe I could call them, and I noticed that they had 80,000 was their max now. So I called their office on Friday when I was driving, and they said that based on increased costs, they've increased their max to 80, and I was like, well, yeah, that affected us. So I wrote them a request today. I have no idea if they'll just say no, because you can only apply once every 5 years to that organization. And so I said, hey, like, you guys clearly recognize that this was higher, and that there was a need for it, and because we haven't started construction, even though we got our award last year, would you consider giving us an additional $20,000? So I've submitted that. I've also been in contact with the county about possibly additional funding. I don't know that they would give us additional funding, like in free grant money, but there was conversation about possibly getting a 0% interest loan on a pretty significant amount. So I've emailed our, that doesn't help us on the upfront cost, but it at least would be significantly less long-term. So I have emailed our bond attorneys and the debt people, our financial people at D.A. Davidson to say, like, here's one idea, here's another, what are we going to do? Because remember, we have the $250,000, and then it sounds like maybe the county, again, this is just with staff, but being able to apply for that. And on Friday, I spoke to Ann McDonough, and then today I spoke to Ed Raber. So we're looking at that. We have a fundraising meeting on Tuesday, tomorrow night, to kind of think about what we feel like we have left in terms of fundraising that we could have the potential to gather additional funds. So my suggestion is we just be patient, kind of let us work through this for the next couple of weeks, and then we'll come back.
The one thing, I ran into Mike yesterday and just talked with him for a second. I don't want to necessarily lose geothermal if it's going to cost us more in the long run, because we need to look at balance operating expenses with
Right.
inputs, where I know we don't want to lose square footage, but I'd rather lose square footage and have it cost less to operate in the future than, oh great, we can save money, let's just throw a furnace in there, but then it kills us in the future on operating, and it's going to outweigh itself. So I guess we need to be cognizant of that I don't want to cut corners on stuff to make it come in at 2.6, to have our roof just come in from, it's gonna only last us 10 years when we were planning on one that was gonna last us 20 years.
Well, I think another question to ask with the geothermal too, to look into, and I know what they estimate, there was only one of those guys,
Yeah, there was only one person that would submit a bid.
Yeah, for geo. So I think some more thought needs to be put into why.
Well, and it was, and I know it was
Why are
crazy
they-
expensive, but I don't
Because no
know.
other
It was
general contractor
$400,000.
Yeah, I just don't know.
But is that because we were doing the horizontal loop, or?
It was, according to what the contractors told FEH, was that you have to get, the drillers that do horizontal and vertical drills. And that basically they're not available for 2 years. And so there's just
You're
nobody.
gonna pay up to have them come.
Right. So it's 400. So I mean, I get your point about operating, but when you're talking like 400 versus we don't know yet what the furnaces are, like, that's a lot of utility bills to get to an even number.
Yeah, it's
So I don't know.
100,000. I mean, we'd have to go.
A long time.
Well,
We'd
yeah,
have to say a
yeah, I
lot.
just didn't know if there's, and I know something got brought up about vertical versus horizontal. I didn't know if there was
Right.
a change that could be made there to make it.
Yep, we'll ask that. Mike is, like I said, Mike will be there, so. So they're putting together a list for me that I think I'm supposed to get by Wednesday that says, like, these are the main, because they asked all 4 contractors, so they took all the information that they got from them. And they're gonna put together a list and then try to come up with at least approximate of what it'll save, so. I did explain to FEH that we were very disappointed and that, like, I just don't have a lot of tolerance for us having them as experts and they build libraries, and I know that COVID and everything else, but I have never seen something come in 46% higher than the estimate. I just can't accept that.
And I got information the other day that basically, I don't know, there seems to be a lapse between engineers and architects right now, between them and the general contractors. Like, it's like they haven't caught up to where the general contractors are,
Right.
because I guess most bids are coming in that way. Like, they're
Well-
way lower than what the general contractors are bidding them at.
Well, what I learned, I think, is that they have what they call estimators. So that's like sitting in a room and doing math. But you really need to get out and talk to the reality of what people's busyness is. And just like we talked about with the trees, like, does it affect the price? And that's what I said. I said, you can't just use an estimator in this day and age. And I try to say that with things that have affected, city government in days, like when you're just robotic and say, well, this is what we look at, instead of using your head and saying, what's happening? And I said, it's different than if you went to a private company and said, hey, we're going to spend some more of your money. I said, we've sat here for 18 months and sold this to the public based on that price, and I'm not happy. And I said, I think you better understand before you come to this meeting, people are pretty upset because we look silly, that we trusted your numbers, and they're like trash. So I know that things happen, but I said this can't happen again.
Now, when they go back and redo all their estimates and designs, are we gonna have to pay for that again?
Well, I wasn't here when you guys signed the contract, and I haven't had time since I got back to look at it, but I made it pretty clear that I have no intention of bringing any kind of an additional payment to the council. And I didn't get an answer on that.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I just, 10%, we could have figured it out. And even with that budget, remember, where we're at with the numbers, we were at 800,000. So clearly we have to be at $1 million now. But it's not even we can't even go higher than $1 million without completely redoing the paperwork, even if you were willing to spend more, because and one of the other questions I had was that when we did that paperwork, it was to be able to use it for TIF and to get the money back from TIF for that debt payment. So I did ask the question, can the council spend more? Again, I'm not suggesting you do, but let's just say, when it all came down to it, you wanted to spend 1.1 instead of $1 million. Can that extra 100 just go to regular debt and not be reimbursable by TIF without going through all the steps that we had to go through last fall? I don't have any answers because I just sent that this afternoon.
I
But
mean,
anyway.
I've been very supportive of the library, but I'm not willing to even entertain thoughts of going over $1 million.
Right, no, I get it. I'm not saying that we should.
It's, yeah.
Yeah. It's, I don't know. It's just one of those things, you don't even know what to say. So,
The geothermal one, I think, is the biggest bite. That was hard. And if they
Right.
don't know that that's what's happening.
You would have to think when they analyze other projects that have been bid and came in at a certain number, that they'd have to have a feel for the way things were running.
The crazy thing about the geothermal though too is that it's not even, if you had a geothermal to 46%, we'd be up over 50% over. If you just threw that
Yeah, even
geothermal.
Closer to 65.
Yeah.
Mhm.
46% it was just a base.
Just the
bid.
base.
Yeah.
So that's the crappy
The
part.
other
you
thing
know,
that's-
Take geothermal out of it and we're still 46% over.
Mhm.
And that was them figuring their geothermal in.
The hard thing too is the way you bid buildings on like roads. Like when you do roads, if you ever look at how we bid them, it'll be like, what's your price for water main? What's your price for sewer main? But when you do buildings, you just get a lump sum. So without actually talking to the bidders, you know, you don't know, like when they had their line items, which things, when you set the two numbers, which things are the things that are off. So I think that they believe that we've gotten some accurate information. But I said we need to get on this because we can't wait till the middle of winter.
Well, and you know everything's accurate when all
Yeah,
four bidders
2%.
We're
were
right there.
right there.
I
I
was
did hear
I was slitting
feedback.
those envelopes open and I was just like, before she was reading them all.
I did hear feedback from one of the contractors that it was a beautiful facility and they were very, very impressed with it.
Mm-hmm. But we can't afford that kind of beautiful.
Exactly.
We're gonna be pretty.
Thank you.
So anyway, that's the update. Stay tuned.
If there's nothing else, number 11, discussion on the mural project.
So I'm still working with everybody. We did switch to the other building by having the ability to do some pretty inexpensive fix to the number one thing that the mural person did not think would be easy was going over the glass. And so we were able to hire Jim and Lester Felton to come for only $500 and take the glass out and put the brick in. So we are meeting on Wednesday morning. Brian Bach obviously doesn't want it to just look like whatever everybody wants it to look like. He wants to make sure that it looks conducive to the look of our downtown, and he's pretty involved in that. So we've been having conversations about, if you look at the murals that this artist has done before, they're pretty bold colors, you know, a lot of blues and yellows and reds, and he doesn't really feel like that. And I don't necessarily disagree with Brian, but that's not necessarily like what our downtown looks like, you know, that it's like a wild coyote, like primary colors. So we're trying to help him before he designs it, like we're using the word rustic. So then I kind of sent like a picture of like what Beth's mural is on the side of the phone company building. That's, you know, like more subdued colors that you could still kind of have that. So we're working through that process. And then if we have to, once we decide that, and I did inform the new owner of the J Salon that right now they were not in the running, that we were looking for the other to look at it at the corner tap room. So she's aware of that. So it was $500 for the brick. The power washing will be $500, and then I'm working on the prices for the paint. So it's not going to be an exorbitant amount of money. But I didn't want to go any further until we know that whatever we design, Brian is approving of, so that
Makes
if for
sense.
some reason he doesn't want it there, then we'd go back to the other one, and I don't want to pay for the bricking had to sit for a while, so I just kind of had to pull that plug. His intention is to be here near the end of September or early October, so that it's done before it gets cold. So it's kind of like we had to brick, let that sit for about a week. Power wash can be a couple days just to kind of let that moisture come out, and then we have to do the primer. So we'll let you know once we know more.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Reports, Fred?
Just a couple of things. Just kind of reminding people about our traffic flow. This weekend, we've got the research for the kids, the motorcycle ride coming through. I believe they're going to be in town at 2:30, from 2:30 to 3:30. So basically from the bridge, we'll route people around by the park, hopefully, and come out on 3rd, all the way up here to the stoplight's going to be closed off. I think the last time they did one, there's 450 to 500 motorcycles there.
It's usually
So
big.
it's-
They told me they were estimating 700 to 1,000.
Yeah, it's huge.
What a great
So-
fundraiser.
So they're actually, if they're coming in at 2, we're planning on closing the street at least an hour ahead of time, and it's probably gonna take them an hour to get out of here. So from about 1:30 till probably 4:30 in the afternoon, we'll be directing traffic and trying to get motorcycles in and out safely. So that's this weekend, and then I just got the flyers for the Sunset event on October 6th, so I'll be putting these out tomorrow. And we're gonna try to do a similar route, going down by the park, Pierce Street, and then have them come out on Johnson Street. But I'll get all these flyers out and to explain about the parking and everything, man. Like I said, I just got them today, so. Okay.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Elementary school, how has traffic been so far this year? I know towards the end of the year, they put out the extra cones and you were kind of monitoring that.
Yeah, actually, it hasn't been bad. There were, this morning I was sitting up there and I had one go through a little quick and I kind of flashed the lights at them and you can tell they dipped down. But I'm not sure what happened with one of the cones. They had both the yellow cones out there and I've noticed Friday it wasn't there and it wasn't there today. So I don't know if it got damaged or.
I feel like I've driven by twice and it's been hit.
They're,
Yeah.
Looks
I
smashed.
They're
can't tell
kinda
you how
like
many
a
times
target.
last year I'd see somebody go around and they'd be knocking at traffic going the other way and knock the cone down. I'd have to go out and pick them out.
That one up by the old lawn care is in a better spot. That one on the west side of town, it is hard when traffic turns coming out of Tyler Street, or if you're coming back to get back and around it to turn left on Tyler Street, you gotta really duck in.
And they have
Quick.
moved that back closer to the alley.
Yep,
So-
which helps, yeah,
Yeah.
because you want to get out of everybody's way so they can see what's coming on the crosswalk, but that one's tough, the one on the west side of town.
That's the one I always see knocked over.
Knocked over. Because if you get it too far down, nobody wants to go back and get it, I'd say, but if it's too far up, traffic coming up the hill, can't make the corner swinging to go
Well,
down Main
and we
Street.
did have some people coming out the alley between the parking lot and the houses there, and it was right there. So
Yeah.
then they moved it up a little bit, and then people coming around the corner the other way, and we'd have semis coming up Tyler Street and making a wide turn to come down toward the bridge, and,
That one's just in a tough spot,
Yeah.
no matter how you
Does.
do it.
yeah, it is.
But the push button light, yeah, people have been really good morning and night, stopping for kids in traffic, and it's been pretty good. We haven't had any issues this year yet, so. It's good. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Fred.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Fred.
it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Library Design Committee, is that a non-issue? Okay. Do you have anything?
Just, if you've been over near the pool and the Legion, we're working on Second Avenue. They're starting, we did find that so we originally intended to replace the northern culvert that's to the east of the two pillars when you drive into the Legion parking lot. And then we were just gonna replace the 12-inch pipe that was going across. And there was a portion of the under part of the one that leads into on the south side of the road that had to be replaced because it was just rotten. We're able to keep the top part, so there is a little bit more expense with that. And then they'll start doing the concrete work and the asphalt, so that'll be done. And can get that completed this fall. You'll also remember that we did a time and materials on the bridge, that northeast corner of the bridge where that was, we believed that the stormwater was being undermined, or the pipe had damage in it that was then undermining. So when you'd walk along the bridge there and look at the approach to the right on the north side of the north and east corner, there was undermining there. So when they actually started looking at it, they realized that there was also a piece of sanitary sewer pipe that's in the Airbnb that Herb and Jackie own. In that driveway, there's a sanitary sewer main that we've learned also has some sort of a deficiency in it that we'll have to take. I don't remember how many feet it was, not a lot, but we're gonna have to cut that out and replace it. So I know the guys talked to Herb. They were just trying to make sure that we had the right easement for kind of if you walk that way, you'll see a manhole in front of the house to the east of the driveway, and then there's actually a manhole in their
the
driveway,
driveway.
so that's where the piece that needs to get replaced. So that was a little bit unexpected, but it kind of makes sense. probably the undermining that was occurring was still from the storm, but we need to get that fixed along with it, so. But you never actually approved a total price for that. I think we had an estimate, but we did time and materials, because until you started digging there, we had no idea. And then we had talked about 2 grants that I had applied for. Those were due at the end of the month. $20,000 for the dog park, and $10,000 was the daycare one that you had authorized me to do for Little Angels. So those both went in on the 30th, and we should know on October 15th if we received any funding. So that's all I have.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question about how close are we on funding for the Oak Hill Park? Do you know?
So the actual bill from the playground equipment, once there's like shipping and stuff, is $63,000. And as of right now, we are at $55,000.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yep.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
So, and there's a potential for a pretty sizable donation where I had to fill out paperwork that someone's like going through their stockbroker or investment firm. So I think that we will definitely reach the 60, but ideally to get a little bit more towards some of those other costs would be great. I think we got maybe 4 people stopping in today and late last week, so. We officially said that we wanted to try and get the money by Friday, and then the park board will meet on Monday, the 19th, this coming Monday. And then, of course, if we're gonna go ahead and order it, we need to order it by the next council meeting. But I think we're close enough that we can go ahead.
Thank you.
I do have a question. Any update on the pump?
Basically, if you have water running, you're not gonna be put in front of, like, it's gonna be oil. Because there's literally, that's what they say, because there's cities that, if they get a call that can't pump water, and we have that submersible pump in there, and our other well, 5 works, they're not coming.
So in other words, quit asking, you'll tell us when it's.
I'm not saying, that's like, no, I don't care if you ask me, but when I asked Phil, and he's like, and he says that. So. Because obviously we can't pull in front of someone that can't, so.
Yep.
And they're, again, just like all the things that we've talked about with the library, like, they're just crazy far behind, so.
And we're operational, it's not like we're deficient in anything, we're,
Yeah.
So, my impression is,
If
can
the other
ask
one
in a
breaks
couple more
down, they'll be
meetings.
right back.
yeah, they would definitely come back if something happened. But it's just a huge job to try and get down there, so. That's the plan. And we did submit an insurance claim for that. But really until, like, so it's out there pending and they'll keep it open through EMC, but they would never fund anything until they know what happened down there, and we're not gonna know what happened down there until we know what
They come
happened down there,
back.
so. Because we don't know, so. But they will come eventually.
Also, something I just thought of now too. There's the little building on Industrial Drive.
Yeah,
and the roof.
with the roof peeled up.
So that is a nothingness building, like, we don't do anything with that, and so when the CDC figures out what they're gonna do on that land over there, we don't need that building anymore. And so the intent is to give them that land, and a couple months ago, I asked about remember how we talked about when we kind of were saying where would the dog park go? That it would be ideal that we get a little bit more land on the south side of
The well.
First Avenue, right by pump house number 6, where the well got damaged. So we've talked about getting some land from them and then giving them that land, but then after I brought it up a couple months ago, just kind of, they didn't bring it up again. So at the meeting that we had last month, I asked if that could be placed back on the agenda, and I just have to come up with some square footage for them, so there's nothing gonna ever happen in there, so even though the roof rolled up in that storm that we had, we'll probably just leave it, and then once they start doing something out there, they would just take it down, or,
Yep,
are you the one that asked me if someone could take it?
if it's
Some?
movable.
Yeah.
There is
Are
something.
those movable within reason?
kind of.
Kind
Yeah,
of.
they're weld plates.
They're weld
There's weld
plates.
plates, and they're probably pins dropped in the footing,
That-
and then they were quick-created in there.
Oh,
I mean, you'd have to cut the weld plates, and I bet the pins would probably pull out. There's lift anchors
I got
on top
nothing.
of the pad.
I don't know about that.
There is something in there too.
Yeah, I think because it used to be, but we don't. it's
It was a
just
booster
Dead
pump.
equipment, right.
Okay.
at one point.
What's a booster pump?
Well, they were low on
Water.
pressure in Oak Hill.
Gotcha.
Prior to the water tower,
Yeah.
I think.
Yep.
So then once you had the water tower and the increased pressure on the east side, then you didn't need it anymore.
Yeah.
But it's
Is
for the
that-
water system.
Is that booster pump worth anything?
I don't think so, but I can ask the guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
At this point, we'll have public comment. There's a limit of 3 minutes per person and only items on this agenda. Seeing none, I would ask for a motion on adjournment if there's nothing
I just
else.
have one thing. I just wanted to commend Chantel, Lisa, Davis Monarch, the lifeguards and the staff on a really awesome pool season this year.
It's a good
I
season.
think the pool ran exceptionally well. It was a lot of fun. I know we were there almost daily, so my kids enjoyed it. I felt very safe there. I felt it was safe with my kids, and so thank you for all the hard work that went into that, Lisa. It was awesome.
Yeah, everybody did a great job, and we told Davis he has to come back. He thinks he's gonna stay in his college town, but we said we'll work on that. He said, I have to pay rent. I said, yeah, but you're probably not paying rent at your mom and dad's, so it's really just the same.
That's good.
But, you know, once you've been there a few years, you want to stay, so. But yeah, he did a great job, as did the other employees, and I think you're right, like, we really didn't have complaints other than the one little thing that we weren't really able to control, so hopefully we can, that little thing.
Yep.
But it was great, thank you.
If there's nothing else for the betterment of the community, I would ask for a motion for adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Kelchin,
Second.
second by Roush. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Steve.